Hello and welcome to another episode of Nauti Nerds. I hope you are all well. The weather is getting a lot colder and we've had a bit of a storm recently, which has been fantastic, whilst we're in the process of getting a new roof as well, which is absolutely hilarious. But we're all fine. We've had minimal leaks, but I guess it's part and parcel of owning a house. Oh, the joys. With this house, everything we open, every part we start when we start renovating something, we just find loads of things like buried underneath. The secrets of this house are very, very big. But anyway, I'm feeling a lot better this week. My antibiotics have finished, which is fantastic. And I really want to talk to you about something that happened 6 or 7 months ago. It was a lead that we were working with in putting together a proposal, and something was said, and I was like, actually, we don't want to work with you anymore. And what was said, you probably won't ever think I'm about to say. He said that he expected his employees to think about work over a weekend. And if someone messages or emails over the weekend, that they would have to reply. Just going to let that sit for a second. Insane. Now, I think I posted a post on my LinkedIn about sort of work-life balance a couple of weeks ago, or maybe last month. And the amount of response I got on it was absolutely fantastic. There are a couple of people on there that said, you should work over the weekends, which is great. Cool, whatever floats your boat. However, I used to do that. And before I met Jake, I would always work at the weekends. I wouldn't ever stop. And now the weekends, I put myself on that little bit of a balance sheet, if you will, and say no. I might do a little bit occasionally, but I think it's very bad when a CEO of quite a large company, who we also realized shortly after, have a lot of people that leave very quickly, probably for this very same reason. And it really made me think, because when it comes down to manager, managerial, and leadership, it's so important that your team are with you. Not in the sense of they are following what you say, but with you in terms of a culture. And if you are telling people that they need to work over the weekend or be around if anything happens, it's toxic. It's not good for people that are working for you. You're going to see a very high turnover in staff, and it's not the right way to treat people. Yes, as people that own businesses, CEOs, etc., we might need to jump in at the weekend if something happens. For example, if a website goes down with us, as an example, I would need to call in an engineer and get it all sorted, which is completely fine. It's part and parcel of owning a business. Completely fine. But when it comes down to your team, it's a completely different story and it shouldn't be done. And after that happened, I was like, no, no, thank you. We're probably not the best of fits. And he didn't really seem phased by us saying that we didn't want to work with each other. And maybe it was because of that very same reason. But it's important to note and to be aware that that stuff, of course, isn't right. You wouldn't ask your daughter or your son that works for you to do that. It's just something very, very odd that we come across. And it falls not just into work life balance, this episode, I guess, but boundaries as well. And working with clients that you want to work with and actually not working with some people that come through the door. And we're on a bit of a change at the moment within Nautilus about how we work, not in a bad way, in a good way, about the types of clients that we want to work with and continue to work with. However, we do get clients that call us up and want to spend £200 on a website, and it's just not going to happen. There are companies out there on Fiverr or other platforms that are similar that will do that kind of stuff. To the quality of the degree of what they're going to do is questionable, but you can, if you want to spend a couple of £100 on a website, they will do it for you. We are working with some amazing brands. We have phenomenal reviews. We win a lot of awards for our work. We do things well when the client is a good fit for us. And I am seeing more often than not people and other businesses taking on clients or customers that they just shouldn't be working with. Because what happens is when you agree to working on one of those websites, it brings everyone's rates down. Because then they know that in future, if they go to build a website with someone else, they know that they paid £200 to build a website. And it's just going to bring the whole value of our industry down. And if people want to do that, great. But it's one of those things. And I was on TikTok. I love TikTok recently. And I was scrolling through as you do. And there was this great video, and I'll try and remember this word for word, of this sales coach. And if I can remember this correctly, please feel free to start using in your calls when you're reaching out to prospects or prospects booking a call. And it was something along the lines of, do you have children? Some of them might say yes, some of them might say no. And then the follow up to that question is, if you were driving down the motorway and you suddenly had to put your brakes on or you crashed, would you want good tires or cheap tires? Good, as in a very good make, probably a little bit more expensive than those cheap tires, where you have to slam your brakes on. Obviously, your seatbelt is going to do the work, but also your tires are the most important thing, whether that be in winter or summer or whatever. If you have good tires, you're going to stop. If you don't have good tires, you're going to carry on and you're going to crash into whatever you were avoiding. And the moral of what he was saying was, well, if you go for a cheap website, you're probably going to have to get it done again, and the quality of work isn't going to be as good as it should be. And I was just like, oh my God, this makes so much sense. And it does, because the saying goes, doesn't it? You don't want to pay twice as much, or you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. The same thing applies here. So when you are putting those boundaries in place, boundaries this week's episode is all about. When it comes down to boundaries, so boundaries with your work-life balance, boundaries with your team. You don't want to bring in toxic traits of expecting the people to work over the weekend, but boundaries with clients, boundaries with prospects. It's not just as an example of having those boundaries of not working with certain clients. It might be boundaries actually with current clients, whether they're asking for too many revisions and you've only quoted for 3 revision rounds of revisions, for example. There has to be a boundary, but when you put your foot down, in a nice way, of course, because at the end of the day, you are charging for a service, whether that be 2 rounds of revisions, 1 round of revisions, 3 rounds of revisions. You are going to need to put your foot down, because clients will. I've had it a couple of times where they will keep pushing for revisions, and we've made it very clear from the beginning that there are only 2 or 3 rounds of revisions. And if you get to a point where a client wants to do more changes, you just very politely tell them that we can do that, but we would need to charge for the additional time for our resources to do that, as we are now out of scope because our proposal says 2 or 3 rounds of revisions. Something that's very important and very vital, to have those boundaries with your work life, with your personal life, with leads, with clients, and with your team, in terms of promoting a good and healthy work-life balance. So take from this what you will, bring it down back to boundaries and how it is so important for the growth, the success of your business, your team, your love life. Anything in general is going to benefit you 1,000 times more than any other piece of advice I could ever give to you. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, a little bit more informal than normal, please do leave a review on your favorite podcasting platform. Please do comment on the YouTube videos as well. Really helps. And I would love to hear from you and any thoughts and questions. Take care. Have an awesome afternoon, morning, wherever you are in the world. Stay awesome, stay safe, but most importantly, stay nerdy.